Hello and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Maryam Zia. The United States is reshaping its global trade policies and has raised tariffs on key exporters like China, India and Brazil, etc. And when we talk about this reshaping of global trade, it has given a competitive edge to countries like Pakistan, where we have seen that in this month only, the tariffs have been cut to 19%, which is lower than most of our regional partners and rather regional rivals. And the US is and remains one of the biggest market for Pakistan with over $7 billion in trade, yet Pakistan makes only a fraction of the total American imports rather. In today's program, we will be talking about different dimensions of is Pakistan ready to seize the US export. We are joined in the studios by Dr. Salman, who is Executive Director Prime. Welcome to the program. We're also joined by Dr. Usman Chohan, who is Advisor Economy, CASS. Welcome to the program. And we are joined by Dr. Jasim, who is with Planning Commission of Pakistan. Welcome to the program. Dr. Ali, let me start with you. Of course, when we look at these tariffs that have been imposed by US on major exporters like China, India, how do you think that these tariffs, and especially when we look at the tariff cuts that have been provided to Pakistan from 29%, they are now reduced to 19%. How do you think they are going to be implementable in coming days for Pakistan, and do you think Pakistan is ready to seize this opportunity?
Well, thank you first of all for having me on the show. I think what is important to is provide a bit of historical context. And historically, of course, we have enjoyed an MFN status with US, but it's not that our tariffs have been reduced from 29 to 19%. It's that previously our exports were facing 16% of tariff, and now they are going to face an additional 19% of tariff in the US market. And of course, Pakistan is not the only country which is facing heightened tariff, but other countries, as you have rightly mentioned, facing even higher tariffs. This is driven by essentially more protectionist policies within US. Historically, average custom tariff in US before President Trump announced the Liberation Day tariffs was just about 2%, and now on average it has gone up to 18%. So this is a major shift in the global trade policy, and Pakistan, this presents some opportunities for Pakistan, but given the fact that we are competing very narrowly with Bangladesh, which has gotten like 20%, and with India, India is going to face much higher tariff. So there is a possible competitive advantage. But then, tariff is just one part of the puzzle. When we talk about competitiveness of Pakistan industry, in particular textile industry here, then we have to talk about the costs which our industry is facing, regulatory hurdles, cost of lending, cost of energy. And in that, of course, nothing has changed in that respect. Yes, yes, it is true that cost of lending has been reduced last 1 year or so, but then the energy costs and other costs remain an uphill battle for Pakistan industry. So it will create, I think, a window of opportunity for us to actually increase the market share, but then we have to do a lot more effort on other parts of the exports, and particularly
and I'll be circling back to this important point that you have raised. And of course, the global context is very important when we talk about these tariffs, and how they not only signal the economic shift, but also the geopolitical context in this regard as well. So Dr. Usman, when we look at these tariffs that have been imposed on major exporters of US, do you think that Washington is deliberately showing openness towards Pakistan when we look at the regional rivals in the context of course, India? Or do you think this is just something that is going to vanish quickly?
There's some people who believe that once Trump is out of office, you can only serve 2 terms. Even if he pushes hard, he'll get 3. So after that, perhaps the new regime that comes in would pull back a lot of this work, because there are many orthodox economists who believe that this is terrible, and they're right, because there is a consumer welfare loss. There is a lot of inefficiencies being created by this. There is a lot of punitive force being used here, a lot of blackmail. So there's plenty of reasons why you might think that this may pull back, but there is still a strong populist sentiment in America that it has to do right by itself. Now, the best way to do that would be a New Deal Democrat type approach that was done 100 years ago or 90 years ago. That's not going to happen. The 1% is becoming stronger day by day. AI is removing a ton of jobs. So instead of that, the populist sentiment, even a new government may feel that it can't erode the entirety of this, and that it is actually good to reuse the economic weapon that was used extensively between World War I and World War II. For countries like Pakistan, because we have been proactive, because we have been conciliatory, because we have been at the vanguard of adapting ourselves, things are looking very good. For countries that are strong and that want to push back, like China, there is merit in their strategy. For countries that think they are strong but are in fact not, like India, they are going to pay they're going to hell in a handbasket, and they're going to pay hell for what they're doing. And India right now is probably going to get incremental tariffs by the day, and it's going to be very bad for them, because they are not at the level economically to be able to put up with the pressure that Trump personally is going to put on countries that don't go along with the program.
Right, and of course this is also pushed by the geopolitical factors. When we look at, like you mentioned about India, of course earlier the tariffs stood at 25%, and now after the recent announcement, they are going to be doubled if Trump government decides to go ahead and India keeps on going for the Russian oil. But at the same time, my question is, like Dr. Salman alluded to, different sectors, and I want to take on the textile sectors, because it is one of the key sectors for when it comes to Pakistan. At this point in time, China exports around $40 billion worth of textiles to US, and India about $9 billion, while Pakistan stands at $5 billion. There is a huge disparity. So do you think we are capable enough to seize this moment? Like I'll go back to my earlier question.
I certainly think so, because our textile our assortment of products is generally at the low end, where price elasticity is very high for demand. So the fact that your end price to the consumer in America would be even slightly better gives you a huge advantage, because the main buyers like Target and Walmart are very elastic on price, so they will prefer a place like Pakistan. My bigger concern was actually in this category, countries like Honduras and the Dominican Republic, because the transport costs are shorter, it's less for them to do it. But depending on how these Caribbean countries play out, I think Pakistan has a huge advantage, because it's just that kind of category. So there is room to grow this considerably, actually.
Right. So, Dr. Jasim, some analysts are saying that this is a once-in-a-generation supply chain disruption. Do you see Pakistan is in a position to restructure this export economy around when we talk about this rare opening? Or do you think that these structural bottlenecks will be causing us to miss this opportunity?
Well, I'm very much optimistic that we're not going to miss this opportunity. This is for sure. Let me give you some of the connecting dots, how we will leverage upon this 19% tariff reduction in some historical context, as well as some policy dimensions, and like my colleagues were talking. I would like to mention Agenda 42 of this government, Trump 2.0, when Oval Office was taken up by the Trump, and then clearly mention some of the key actions in their agenda, which include promote connectivity, regional presence, supporting the countries, developing economies, and keeping America first. So all these actions are basically in line with broader US concept. Now, how we get benefit of it? Number one, potential of those products which are already in place and how to improve the productivity. Linking that, I would call up the Udan Pakistan. the 5E framework. 2 years ago, when the government was making up this plan under the leadership of Minister for Planning, Professor Dr. S.N. Iqbal, it was agreed that the next 13 5 years plan for the government, we should try to increase or double the productivity of Pakistani industries and the market. So there are certain steps that were taken up and that are now in place to maximize the benefit. For example, it was agreed that we should diversify our industries and market potential, both in terms of the sectoral diversification as well as some of the new innovations in terms of mineral discoveries, mineral potentials, blue economy, green economy, medical tourism, human capital development, and so on. So, number of these initiatives were then brought in place, starting up with industrial reforms, which includes having an ease of business, number one, giving easy loans through reducing the banking markups, such as you have seen the State Bank had reduced the markup up to now 11, I think is nearly single digit now. Then adding on to having those right human skill development that are required for the future of job and the new industries. For that, entrepreneurship program were introduced in almost all universities, and young entrepreneurship scholarships and SME developments are also incorporated through SMEs reforms. Having said that, there is a broader add-on to it as well, which is in shape of a public-private partnership. And you have seen and witnessed that through SIFC and through P3A, Public-Private Partnership Authority, the government in last 2 years have finalized a number of bilateral agreements, including with US, including with Central Asia, including with Australia, especially the RICODEC, the other export agreements. So all these infrastructures and initiatives, when are in place and add on to it through the government support and US broader agenda of reshaping the global power shift and economic balance, we are now in a position that next 1 or 2 years we hit the market of US through our value addition products. Like you are well aware of the potential that is already in place. For example, we are exporting food products, rice, sugar, leather products, some of the small items of the surgical goods, and some of the furnitures as well. So the question will come now that in next 1 year, the value addition adding up to the agriculture area and the equipping the small and medium enterprises and developing those economic zones to bridge that gap and then bring into that market access to those businesses, add on to our quality standards, because without accreditation and the quality standards, we may not be getting those orders that were needed. So to have that, a special committee has been formed to develop the accreditation standards, quality standards, branding strategy. This is all inbuilt in Udan Pakistan 5E framework. So we're very hopeful that in months and years
you
we'll
think
leverage
that
on.
we will be able to actually overcome these structural bottlenecks rather. But at the same time, Dr. Jasim, my question to you is that when we look at these tariffs in terms of global context, countries like Vietnam enjoys a 5.4% tariff advantage compared to its peers, while Pakistan's advantage is only 3.3%. Despite this, Pakistan is considering and is hopeful that this 19% tariff is a game changer for Pakistan. So how so?
Yes. Number one, you have already mentioned in the beginning of the program, and my colleague also mentioned, the export volume compared to other countries is very less, which means that compared to other countries and compared to Vietnam, or for that matter, Bangladesh or India or any other country, the uncultivated land, the untapped industrial potential, untapped mineral potential, and untapped human capital, and the required skill set. These are those 4 or 5 areas that can help us to bridge that further gap and bring in or potential to the US market. In addition, there's an important factor that other countries are leveraging and Pakistan is moving towards, that is cost of production. Cost of production directly relates to your availability of the raw material and your energy needs and energy cost. In that context, we have seen the number of initiatives are being taken place, including introduction of solarization systems, as well as constructing new hydropower projects, which will give energy into the main or energy system, as well as reforming the IPPs, which are already in place. The power sector regulations is in place, and units are being reduced as well as. Similarly, through various reforms, DISCOs, distribution companies, we are having a circular debt, and a lot of current deficit is there when we're talking of the efficiency of these companies. So the government is also improving that gap through bringing privatization models for the state-owned enterprises. And when efficiency model is there in 1 year or so, the target is to privatize 10 SCOs in this coming year, financial year. All the benefit actually will trickle down to the people directly and indirectly, directly to the manufacturers and indirectly to the people at large.
Right, right. And let me bring in Dr. Salman. Dr. Salman, you earlier mentioned about, of course, the need for diversifying the sectors, but when we look at the current exports of Pakistan and current export industry, Pakistan's exports to US are dominated by textiles, making up to around 77%. Given this overwhelming concentration in a single sector, do you think that, and how risky is it in your opinion to continue or concentration in one sector, and in what sectors there is room for Pakistan to diversify?
Well, first of all, when we talk about diversification, obviously this is not a function of planning only. I mean, we cannot just centrally plan an economy in the sense that we can create diverse sectors. It's a long process, and this sort of concentration within the textile is a result of decades of a particular industrial policy that we call import substitution. Historically, textiles have enjoyed protection. It doesn't enjoy protection now, but historically over decades it has done so, and which means that the resources such as credit flows and other resources automatically attract towards this sector, and that's why you see the concentration of our exports in textile. The recent reforms in the tariff policy which the government has announced is a way forward. Once you reduce these tariff protections across the board, then it will open up competition and it will encourage other sectors to be added to the exports. It will encourage other investors, not just in textile. So I think that is the way to go. Secondly, when we talk about the diversification, we also need to identify the skill set, because Pakistan, let's say the labor class and the others are more historically trained and oriented towards some sectors. So it means that we have to also diversify the investment in the skills side, in the education side, so that we can have the trained workforce in other areas. So as I said in the beginning, the tariff is just one part of the puzzle. Right. But when we talk about the diversification, we need to definitely invest in other parts of the economy.
Right, and we will be talking about that what sectors are essentials when it comes to human resource development. But like we earlier discussed, that US still remains one of the biggest trading partners for Pakistan, and in 2024, total US-Pakistan trade stood at 10.1 billion. dollars with a $3 billion surplus in Pakistan's favor, but still Pakistan accounted for just 0.1% of total US imports and ranked at 56th among the trading partners. What does, in your opinion, it reveal about our true potential, our true scale when it comes to exports with US?
You see, first of all, that speaks volumes about the productive capacity of our economy. Even if you, let's say, US offers even more lucrative tariff for Pakistan, we do not have enough capacity.
Yes.
I was talking about another sector recently about the sugar exports potential. And I was told that we do not have enough sugarcane crop, while we have enough maybe the capacity in the milling and the processing side. Simply the inputs are not there. So it means that look at the cotton. So cotton production has declined drastically over the last few decades, and which has also forced us to import cotton. Then we have not diversified, talking about textile, in man-made fibers. So that is again a disadvantage that we face in terms of increasing the capacity. So we are not talking about just textile, but we also need to think about the sectors like pharmaceuticals. And Pakistan does have a potentially emerging industry in the pharmaceutical sectors. Also even the IT in the exports, software exports is emerging quite fast. So we need to ensure that these sectors which may not need those kind of input, for instance, software needs more human investment and an increase in the level of the education, IT education that we are providing. That will then help us increasing the base and give us economies of scale, which will then increase the market share. Unless we do that, we may not be able to enjoy the advantage which the US market offers us.
Right, but Dr. Usman, at the same time, when we look at different statements and 1 month progress after this tariffs realization, many officials are claiming that Pakistan has entered a new era when it comes to trade between Pakistan and US, with a record 17% monthly surge in exports following this, of course, tariff realization. And 42% growth in customs collection. Do you think this 1 month data is enough for us, and what needs to be done for the long-term growth?
It's a very good point, because this has all been very radical. I mean, Liberation Day happened in April, April 2nd. And so we haven't had enough data to see, even on a global level, what is happening. The first quarterly results came out 3 months later, and it gave a very stark picture of just how much American consumers are being hit, how other countries have responded, how the changes are likely to be. But even then, because things are happening by fiat at such short notice, people don't really know how this will play out. 1 month data for Pakistan, for example, doesn't tell us anything, although it is a good sign, but there's other forces working. For example, you're also seeing a broader economic recovery in Pakistan. You're seeing interest rates come down. You're seeing business community has a different attitude now. There's many factors domestically and overseas that impact us. Now, is this rule by uncertainty by Trump going to persist? If it does, then economic data will be very jittery. 6 months down, 1 year down. The real time to evaluate this will be April 2026. But even then, we don't have as much confidence on US data as we used to. The Bureau of Labor Statistics came out with a report that said that employment is devastated. It's because of AI, it's because the tariffs hurting the producers there, the importers there. And Trump fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Though that kind of attitude, which you expect from a third world country, they're doing that now. So who is going to present what data? The reason that people have trusted America for the last 100 years is because at least the data, at least the institutions were robust, so it was a safe haven. But I'm not sure it's a safe haven anymore. And so speaking philosophically about the data, we're not going to be sure even in April 26.
So this is kind of a premature celebration when it comes to these tariff cuts on countries like Pakistan?
Yes, and all it is a healthy data point, and we'd like to see more data points, and then always double check the data points or look at it with a grain of salt. and just hope for the best, really.
Right, right. And Dr. Jasim, when we look at the talks, trade talks between Islamabad and Washington, there were voices from the private sector, since you earlier alluded to the significance of private public partnership. There were many concerns raised by them that they were not included in the talks. So do you think that private sector was sidelined, and what needs to be done to create that kind of public private partnership when it comes to creating that kind of momentum for exports?
Well, number one, there is no such concept that we are, or the government is sidelining private sector. Private sector representatives and part and parcel of all the consultative processes when it comes to such dialogues or such agreements. This is for sure. Over policies, the government, especially public-private partnership policies, the new SECP policy, SEO's 2017 Act, and financial plans, as well as 13th five-year plan up to 29, clearly demonstrate the role of private sector. Even the starting line says that the government needs to reduce its footprint into the service delivery and encourage the private sector for coming up and deliver the services, whereas government should only regulate and ensure the compliance on certain things. So no question about that. Now coming up to some of the earlier discussions that I was listening, and I picked few points. There are some early harvests that can be leveraged through private sector. They can be midterm and the long term. The early harvests are mostly on those which are readily available services, such as IT services. We have seen growth in last few months. Last year, it's a service industry, and the service industries will always have a potential to immediately penetrate to get leverage of the low tariff. The second is those things which can easily be manufactured through certain GMP, good manufacturing practices, CE standards, and some other ISO global standards like FDA approved and things like that. For that, health sector, my colleague was mentioning, has an enormous potential in short to mid-term. Pharmaceutical, biotech, surgical equipments, as well as plasma products. Pakistan plasma is considered as a gold platinum plasma because of its inborn immunity, because of exposure to various bacteria and environments. So it has enormous potential of hitting up to $180 billion in US market alone, because there are 36 products that can be manufactured from plasma alone. For the long term, there's, as my colleague mentioned, the number of parallel steps that are being taken and then needs to be taken as time passes, including security of investment, investor security, creating a peaceful environment, having right skill set, right policies, inputs, and then expanding to the output and outreach. Number of things that needs to be taken up, which may take some time. Now coming up to the uncertainty of the US market. It's a known fact that there's a number of things that Trump, when it got the pressure from opponents.
And even the global markets are volatile at this point in time
Exactly.
because of the geopolitical environment.
But the important thing is that if you look at the comparison of the parity of the US with other currencies, it's stable, not very much fluctuating, which is another assurance that yes, for years to come, US market will be a good potential for Pakistan.
Yeah, that there is a ray of hope. But Dr. Salman, like we earlier discussed about the sectoral opportunities that exist for Pakistan and how there is a need for Pakistan to channelize it beyond textiles. And when we look at different sectors like textiles, like we look at leather sector, sports, IT, what specific policy or branding moves, in your opinion, Pakistan needs at this point in time to expand its market?
Well, those specific policies would be tailored according to the sector in which we are operating.
Let's talk about leather sector, for instance. Pakistan's leather exports to US stands at 171 million dollar at this point in time, while the total leather exports, global exports of Pakistan stands at $710 million. So how Pakistan needs to expand its market?
You see, in this particular market, our products are facing both trade barriers and also non-tariff measures, which pertain to the quality issues of the product that we are exporting. One of the things which I think Pakistan needs to significantly invest is in the R&D in, let's say, in the textile, in the leather sector, so that whatever products we are able to export meet the highest hygiene standard, meets the highest standards in terms of the product specific
compliance with US standards.
Compliance with US standards, because the standards are just act like tariff barriers. So on one hand, if we are reducing the tariff barriers, and on the other hand, if we are not able to meet the standards, then our markets cannot grow. Which means that if you look at both the upstream and downstream. So if you look at the upstream, then we have to look at the market of even livestock, where we are actually producing on the basis of which we are producing leather garments. So that sector is entirely unorganized, mostly informal, very small scale. Herds are there.
And so are Pakistani exporters actually equipped to meet those US standards, and what needs to be done
of course,
to
there's
establish
a lot
those
of potential. If you look
mechanisms?
at Sialkot and if you look at other examples, of course, we are already doing it. But then, as I said, each country has a different level of standard and different level of requirements. So, which means that Pakistan, entrepreneurs and exporters needs to invest in those standards to enter the specific market. One of the problems which we have in generally in the industry is the lack of innovation. So if we invest further in R&D, if we invest in innovation, and then we can actually create products which are appealing in the new markets. We also do not invest heavily in branding. Again, a lot of value is attached with the brand itself, not to the product. A significant part comes from the branding, and we do not have brands. Even the surgical instruments that we export, most of the exports is not branded with Pakistani name.
Yes.
It's branded, let's say it's German name or other names, and then they are re-exported. And same applies to the leather garments. So these are the areas within the industry that we need to focus on, and which will help us increase the market share and increase the export potential.
Right. And Dr. Usman, since we are talking about exports, but I also want to take on the existing trade agreement between that exists between Pakistan and US, and how relevant is it in this context? How effective is the existing 2003 Trade and Investment Framework Agreement platform in advancing Pakistan's interests?
Well, we have about 20 years to evaluate how well that's done, more than 20 years. It's fine. I mean, we do have, as you mentioned, a 10 billion total trade volume. It's not bad, but it's not particularly large either. You also mentioned that
what 2-3 measures are needed to make it more sophisticated as per the current conditions?
Sophistication is not the key issue right now, because Trump is not a sophisticated policymaker. He's doing things on vendetta, on fiat. It's not a time for sophistication. The more line items you have, the more confused he'll get. He wants to have, are you on my side or are you not? Are you joining my team or are you not? And Pakistan said, we're totally joining your team. Yes. This attitude, so sophistication is totally out of the, but there is one element of sophistication which we should consider, which is the services side. So the whole tariff discussion is all goods. But why do you think it is that the UK went hand in hand immediately and said, we're happy to do whatever you want? The reason is because the UK is more services oriented vis-a-vis America. Pakistan's IT is also not hardware. We're not manufacturing chips. We're not building screens here. We're not doing hardware. It's software oriented. It's coding. It's follow-up. It's services. Services are the future where you want to tap into your human potential, you want to tap into your human capital, your youth bulge. It's all services oriented, and this is a vast ocean of things. Rather than taking discrete sectors like leather or textile or this, there is so much from legal advisory to music to counseling to therapy. It's such a vast ocean of things that characterize the 21st century. It's all services. This is because the information superhighway actually allows somebody in Pakistan, somebody in America to exchange a service for some currency. That is where I would like to see it, and that's not covered by Trump's thing. His whole mindset is focused on physical goods and physical manufacturing as if he's going to have sweatshops in America. It's not going to happen. It's all services that are the future, and Pakistan can leverage this without even thinking about any of the barriers that are put up by that. And the quality assurance is much better in the services than in the goods, I can tell you that. And there's future things where Trump has let it be a carte blanche. AI, for example. If Pakistan comes into this game, it's all open season, and there's so much. You can see tens of billions overnight in services if we channel our energies towards the services.
Right. If we channel our energies, that is the catch-22. Dr. Jasim, my last question to you is that when we look at this tariff deal from the government's perspective, do you think these statements of entering into a new era is just a rhetoric, or do you think when we look at the bigger picture, there is a true potential for Pakistan to seize this opportunity and to enhance its economic ties with US?
Well, I see the bigger picture actually, I mean in the longer run. Which is not only capitalizing the current tariff potential rather than positioning Pakistan globally as investor heaven, at a country which welcomes investments and having a quality products in number of sectors. I mean, if a situation comes when Trump says, are you with me or not with me? So Pakistan definitely will opt for a balanced situation, because the global economic shift is not entirely targeting Pakistan, rather than in a bigger picture you see Russia, Ukraine, Russia-India relationship, then BRIC, then SEOs, then Middle East. There's a number of factors are in place. So Pakistan needs to be very much diplomatically capitalizing on the potential which is right now being offered through whatever we have, whereas focusing on our internal security to the investors and diversifying our potential value addition on those products or those potential which were not tapped or having potential, such as processed food. We are losing a lot of it. Similarly, industries, medicine, number of things my colleagues already spoken about. So yes, in a long-term picture, regardless of what the Trump government will do in coming years, we are now in a position to capitalize and build upon what has already been done so far. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jasim Anwar, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Usman Chohan, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Ali Salman, for joining us in today's program and for your valuable input. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.